A different perspective, a new insight into life, a nugget of positivity and a hidden truth, and maybe an amusement for you. Welcome to From My Standpoint, a twice-a-month podcast with your host, Josh C. Jones.
It was a normal day in the town of Allville. The sun was shining bright and the people were hustling about their typical routines for the day. Some were rushing to their places of employment, speeding down the road, trying not to be late or receive a ticket in the process. Some were still feeding their children breakfast before sending them off to school. Others were yawning and reaching far above their heads, stretching while just rolling out of bed. Dogs were barking, birds were chirping, the sounds of cars and planes were in the air. It was a beautiful day, with the sounds of life buzzing all around. All was well. Until it appeared. It struck one without any warning. Then it struck another, and another, and another, until it had made its presence known all over Allville. Good men and women with authority tried, but could not stop it. It made the world cower before it. It reigned supreme. It dominated with pain and destruction of life. It became what it always was, a villain. It was an invisible evil. It made people of Allville hide. It was triumphant. Then Edmund Burke's quote rang out. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. This is when ordinary good men and women stepped up and did something. Hello again, and I appreciate you tuning in again to From My Standpoint. I'm your host, Josh C. Jones. If this is your first time listening, then I thank you for tuning in. And if it's not, well, thank you for coming back. And don't forget that if you prefer to read, I suggest you check out the show notes, also known as the blog, at fromtheirstandpoint.com. That's from THEIR standpoint.com, and click on blogs and my show, From My Standpoint, where I will sometimes add links and some extra information that may not be in the podcast. So, all jobs are essential to those working those jobs. However, not all jobs are deemed essential to our basic survival needs and the needs to uphold our quality of life. It is sad, but it is true. I may get to this more in a later episode. But for now, this episode is a proclamation to those of you who stepped out in the face of danger during the recent pandemic of 2020. Although this was written in April, knowing there was no actual set date for publication of this show, or at least this episode of the show, I still think it is pertinent and important to state even today. It is with a gracious and grateful heart that I say thank you to all of you who worked tirelessly to help us, your fellow neighbors and citizens, during this unprecedented time. This virus that struck the globe and was quickly given the names and referred to by those names by all of the media and most pundits on both sides as,
though true, and often denied now by some of those same people, I would not repeat their words if I were you.
I really do appreciate your wise reasoning, random voice of reason. But if it is a problem, then I suggest people listen to episode 1. Also, I want to be honest and clear. So, as I was saying, the virus that was quickly given the names and referred to by those names by all of the media and most pundits on both sides as either the Chinese virus or the Wuhan virus but is now known as the coronavirus or COVID-19, it was a major game changer for the world in the first part of 2020. The coronavirus that attacked the world with an unannounced and voracious intensity, not discriminating among race, gender, wealth, ethnicity, location, or age, and paying no heed to borders or boundaries, nearly shut the globe down. It caused much concern for our loved ones who were elderly, sick, or living with major medical conditions. It caused much trepidation in society, resulting in much panic buying from the grocery and retail stores. I think we can all remember all the toilet paper being bought up. It caused fear to rise and negativity and hate to boil over. It caused unbelievable hardships for many. It caused fear-mongering, finger-pointing, rumors, and both hopelessness and hope. It was the cause of many emotions, actions, and good and bad. It helped cause lies to spread and truth to be revealed.
The truth objectively exists whether we wish to acknowledge and accept it or not.
Right again, random voice of reason, thank you. Now, this virus also brought people together like no other tragedy or occurrence has in my country, the good old US of A, since 2001. It revealed the kindness, generosity, love, and compassion still relevant and abundant in our world, in our nation, in our community today. As I state in my book, Volume 2, Your Foundation in Action, it is understandable that when tragic events occur, emotions are stirred, assumptions and opinions spread like wildfire, facts are buried beneath piles of altered fan fiction, political heads power play for supremacy and paternalism, and the social structure becomes engulfed with foolish division. And even though we have witnessed some of this in play, these dangerous and hurtful negativities, they were only hampered by those brave people who were and are essential for our necessities, to our health, to our well-being, to our life, to our continued hope in uncertainty.
Are only a few people in jobs essential?
No, not at all, random voice of questions. Every person is essential to their calling in life, and every job is essential to the person working that job. This topic and discussion, however, is for another time. Through it all, through all the mixed complexity of human nature and emotions, those our government deemed as essential and had to continue stepping outside and working during this time. You stepped up, you stepped out, and you donned bravery's suit. And like a hero, you faced the elusive enemy headlong to ensure that we did not suffer further, go without necessities, be forced into complete isolation, be left to defend for ourselves. You made sure that we did not fight this villain and its chaos alone. Yes, you woke up each day proudly putting on your uniform and bravely stepping out into danger to patrol the streets in our communities for law and order and for our safety, to put out fires, to administer medical care and transport those hurting to places of help, to greet and direct and help those arriving in need of life-saving services, to transport those hurting and in pain to the necessary locations, to supervise and care for and administer to patients in need, to properly and timely diagnose and treat our loved ones, to enforce protocol at medical centers to help ensure our loved ones were as safe as possible and to increase their chance of recovery, to clean our communities so we did not have to live in waste and filth, to spend long hours and days transporting necessities and life-saving supplies across town and state and country, to cook and prepare and stock shelves so our families could survive and have the food and supplies we need to stave off starvation and stay sanitized, to create and produce the all-important supplies and materials required, to clean all the businesses and hospitals and locations, and to do your best to balance that which you were appointed, and to make those firm, decisive, and often difficult decisions. You could have easily stayed home, stayed safe in your isolation, said no to helping anyone if it meant taking any risk to yourself and your family. But you didn't. You said yes. You said, "Here I am." It is to you who stepped out in the face of danger during the recent pandemic that I say thank you. I, and so many others, appreciate and are forever grateful for your bravery and willingness to sacrifice for your fellow man. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, I am by no means meaning to diminish the importance and reverence of such a quote by a great military leader and statesman, Winston Churchill, but I do feel its sentiment is, at least in part, perfect for how we might feel about you who stepped out in the face of danger during this recent pandemic, during this unprecedented and unexpected time. Never was so much owed by so many to so few. If you have not yet subscribed, then I encourage you to subscribe to From My Standpoint to ensure you receive a reminder when new episodes are released. You can follow me on Facebook at FM Standpoint, on Instagram at From My Standpoint, or visit the website www.fromtheirstandpoint.com. That's from THEIR standpoint.com, and click on my show, From My Standpoint. And now, what you've all been waiting for, it's the Wisdom of Dad joke. All right, the Wisdom of Dad joke this time is going to be slightly different. I actually wrote a poem here. It's an acrostic poem, which means the first letter of every line spells something out from top to bottom. And of course, you can't see it on an audio podcast, but you can go over to the show notes, also the blog, at fromtheirstandpoint.com and click on the blogs From My Standpoint and read it there. But I'm going to read the poem to you here. There you were in the midst of danger, hazard, death, and fear abound. All you heard were cries from strangers. No, you never ran from the sounds, knowing even death was wagered. You stepped up and rolled the dice, out to help and willing to sacrifice under these 3 unwritten rules of life.
This has been From My Standpoint, a podcast to find a nugget of positivity and a hidden truth, encouraging and enlightening insight, entertaining a new perspective, and providing an amusement for you. We hope you were entertained, encouraged, enlightened, and enjoyed the show.